When you put your money in a bank, you're basically making a leap of faith, right? But what's that faith really built on? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on the core principles of ethical banking. Think of it as the unspoken promise between you and your bank. So let's get right to it. You trust a bank with your hard-earned cash, but what makes them deserve that trust? We're going to dive into this kind of invisible framework that's meant to make sure they're acting with integrity and, actually have your best interests at heart. And really, the answer is pretty simple. It's all about trust. You could say it's the real currency in the banking world. I mean, without it, the whole system just falls apart. So the principles we're about to walk through, they're the absolute bedrock of that trust, designed to protect all of us, from you and me to the entire global economy. All right, so let's start with what this all means for you personally. You can almost think of this first part as your customer bill of rights. These are the promises your bank is making to you every single time you do business with them. Okay, first up, no surprises. Period. You have a right to total clarity. This is all about the principle of transparency and honesty. It means you shouldn't have to deal with hidden traps in the fine print, or that confusing jargon they sometimes use to hide what's really going on. And look, transparency isn't just some vague, fluffy concept. It's super practical. It means you should be able to see every single fee you're being charged, plain as day. It means interest rates are given to you straight, no spin. And yeah, it means the terms and conditions are actually written in plain English, not some legalese that you need a law degree to understand. Next up is a big one, a really fundamental right: fair treatment for all. This is all about fairness and equity. Basically, it means that when you go to open an account or apply for a loan, you should be judged on your financial situation, and that's it. Not on who you are, what you look like, or where you're from. Okay, this next one, wow, it has never been more critical than it is right now. We're talking about your data. Your financial information is some of the most sensitive personal stuff you have. So this third right is simple. Your data is your data. The bank is just its guardian. This is the absolute core of confidentiality and data security. And being a guardian is way more than just a nice-sounding promise, right? It means the bank has to invest in serious, heavy-duty security to stop data breaches. It means they need super strict internal rules so that nobody misuses or, heaven forbid, sells your information. It's about protecting your privacy, full stop, at every single turn. And finally, for this section, let's be real. Ethics matter the most when times get tough. This brings us to fair debt collection. It means that even if you fall behind on your payments, and it happens, you still have a right to be treated with dignity and respect. The goal should always be to work together to find a solution, not to bully or intimidate you. Okay, so those are your rights as a customer. But let's face it, those rights don't mean much unless the bank itself has its own set of guiding principles. So now we're going to go behind the scenes, behind the counter, and take a look at the bank's internal compass, the stuff that's supposed to guide how they operate every single day. And right at the heart of that compass is one word: integrity. And this isn't something that's just for the big bosses in the corner office. No way. This applies to everyone, from the person at the front desk to the CEO. It's a fundamental promise to always put the customer's interests first and to never, ever let personal gain get in the way of what's right for you. Now, integrity doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It's actually supported by this whole system of rules, kind of like layers of an onion. First, you've got the bank's own internal rulebook, their code of conduct. Then, on top of that, you have the best practices for the entire industry. And finally, the outer layer is all the national and even international laws that they absolutely have to follow. But rules on a piece of paper are just paper. For a bank to be truly ethical, it has to live and breathe this stuff. And that means training and more training and constant reinforcement for every single employee. The goal is to make sure these values aren't just something they memorize for a test, but that they become part of the company's actual DNA. All right, so we've looked at your rights, and we've peeked inside the bank's own playbook. Now let's zoom out. Let's widen the lens and look at the third and maybe biggest pillar: a bank's ethical duties to society as a whole. And this might be their single most important job when it comes to society: responsible lending. See, it's not just about handing out money to anyone who asks. It's about being careful, about making sure that a loan is actually going to help someone, that it's a tool for growth and not a trap that's going to cause a world of financial pain later on. And believe me, the difference here is night and day. A responsible lender is always asking, can this person realistically pay this back without destroying their finances?
But a predatory lender, they're asking, how can I squeeze the most profit out of this person? The goals are complete opposites. One helps build a healthy financial future, and the other, well, it just creates these horrible debt traps.
But it's not just about lending. Ethical banking also means being a good neighbor. It's about understanding that a bank is only as successful as the community it's part of. When the neighborhood is thriving, the bank thrives.
So what does being a good neighbor actually look like? Well, you've probably seen it. It could be sponsoring the local Little League team or holding free workshops to help people get a handle on their budgets. And on a bigger scale, it means putting money into projects that help the whole community grow in a smart, sustainable way for the long haul.
And last but not least, this responsibility extends to how they talk to us. Ethical marketing. It's simple, really. Their ads have to be truthful. They can't be misleading. They can't be designed to take advantage of people who are in a tough spot financially. Bottom line, if they say it in an ad, it has to be a promise they can actually keep.
Okay, let's wrap all this up. We've talked about your rights as a customer, the internal compass that guides the bank, and their bigger duties to society. And it's so important to remember, these aren't just nice ideas or suggestions. They are the absolute pillars that hold up a trustworthy financial system.
Because when you really think about it, the cash, the numbers on a screen, that's just the medium. The real currency, the one that truly matters in banking, is trust. And that's not something you get for free. It has to be earned over and over, every single day, through actions that are consistent, transparent, and ethical. So what's the big takeaway here? It's that these principles we've been talking about, they aren't just abstract ideas from a textbook. They are a direct promise, a promise from your bank to you. This is the standard you should expect. It's the very foundation your entire financial relationship is supposed to be built on.
And that leaves us with one final thought, a question for you to take with you. Now that you know what the promise of ethical banking looks like, all these standards of transparency, fairness, and responsibility, ask yourself, how does your bank measure up?